Hello folks, welcome back. So in this example, we will create a simple class and we'll explain what are the different parts of the class. So the way to do is we'll go to a package and we'll say new of class. Now here, let's say the name of my class is a dog class. Now every dog will have a name and the age. So a name is basically will be of string type and the age will be of integer type. So we'll create two different variables to store the values of the name of each dog and to store the age of the dog. So it's going to be string name and it's going to be the age. Now each dog also barks. So that's like what a dog does. So anything that something do is we call it as a method. Method is basically where a bunch of statements can go inside a method, and the purpose of a method is to perform some operations. A subtask is basically where we put the methods for. So what are the things that a particular dog can do? Then we call them as the methods. Now each method has a name, each method returns something, and each method takes some parameters. So let's go and dig into what methods are. So basically methods are like the subtask, or we write bunch of statements inside the method to perform a particular operation. So each method has a name. So let's say the name of, since the dog barks, this is the name of the method, and the method also has these parentheses and the circular parentheses, and this is basically if the method take some parameters. So here we specify the list of the arguments. Now a method also returns something or can return something. So in this case, if the method can return an integer value, we call the return type as int. If the method returns a string value, we call it as a string return type. If a method returns a boolean value or a true false, we call it as boolean. If a method returns a decimal number, we call it as the return type is double. If the method does not return anything, we call it as void. So in this case, this is the name of the method, and one of these can be the return type. You can only have one return type of the method, and these are the list of the parameters a method can have. Now similarly, we also use a access modifier here. This is called as the access modifier. Now what do you mean by access modifier? Access modifier means what level of access or who can access this particular method. So in this case, we say we access it by public. Public means this method is available publicly. Everyone can see this method. So give me some, for example, tell me what are the method name here, the list of parameters, and the return type and the access modifier. So give me the values. So let's say we have another method, public int sum int a comma int b. So in this, guys, tell me what is the name of the method, what is the return type of the method, what are the list of the arguments does this method take, and what is the access modifier. So as the name indicate, this is the name of the method here. Now the next thing is int. This is the return type of the method, that a method returns an integer value. Now these are the list of the parameter this method takes. So this method takes two parameters, a and b. So this is the list of the arguments, and this is the access modifier. Let's do another example to make it more detailed. So let's say now in this method, guys, what is the name of the method, what is the return type of the method, and what is the list of the parameters does this method take. So in this case, this is the name of the method. This is the void is the return type, means it does not return anything. So that's why we call it as void. This is the return type of the method, and this is the one list of our parameter that it takes, and that is of the string type, and this is the name of the variable. And this is called as the access modifiers. So this is what goes into the method. Now one last example to explain a little bit more. So let's say we have a method called public void bark. So What is the name of the method? Was there any list of the arguments does this method take? What is the return type of the method, and what is the access modifier? So the name of the method is bark. Since this parameters does not contain anything, there is no list of arguments this method takes. This is the return type of the method, that this method returns a void. It does not return anything, so this is a void return type. And public is called as the access modifiers. Now what a method can do, we have a opening brace and a closing brace, and whatever this method does, we write it into these statements. So similarly, in a dog class, we have a method called bark, because every dog barks. So here, public void bark, it does not take any parameters. Plus name plus age. So the name and the age of the dog is this name and the age. So this is a simple dog class we have created. So now if you look at the memory, we have not done anything. The memory is still, computer memory is still empty. We have just created a simple class. The name of the class is dog, and we have different parameters. Each dog has a name, has an age, and has a method called bark. Now the computer memory looks like this, still empty. Now we need to construct object of this class. How to create an object of this class? The way to create an object of the class, so we need an object of the dog class. So there is an operator called new to construct the objects. So new of the class. Now which object that you wanted to create? I wanted to create an object of the dog. So new of dog, and there will be the parenthesis. So this is the operator that is used, the new is the operator that is used to create objects. Now once you write this statement, that it has created a dog in the memory. So just by writing new of dog, this is the way to create objects. This is the way to create objects. So now I'm going to go ahead and write another class where I'll create the objects of the class. So here, class dog test, because the program in Java starts with the main method, so we need to have a main method. So in this case we will say dog d new of dog. So this has created an object for you. Now let's say I wanted to create another dog object. So this is the way to create dog objects. So now how many dog objects are there in the memory? There are 2 dog objects. So if I go back, there is another dog that we have just created, and that is this is the dog number 1, this is the dog number 2. Now these 2 objects are in the memory. I need someone to control these objects. So there comes a concept of reference variables. Now what is a reference variable, guys? Now for example, everyone watches TV in the house, and a TV, you put the TV in one corner of the house, and you have a remote control, and wherever you sit, you have remote in your hand, and you can change the channel, and you can change the volume, you can turn it off, you can turn it on. So that is a remote control which controls the TV. So TV is the actual object, and the remote is something that controls the object. You can change the channels, you can increase the volume, you can do whatever you want with the TV through that remote. So similarly, these dog objects are sitting in the memory, and I need to control those dog objects from outside. I'm not going to go every time to the memory and make changes. I wanted something that I can go ahead and change the values on those objects through outside. So there it comes the concept of the remote controls. So each of the dog objects I need to control from outside. So I need a remote control for these. So these remote control are also called as reference variable. These are also called as reference variable. So through these reference variable, we control these objects. So now in this case, let's say we have created, so this is an object number 1 and this is an object number 2. Now in this case, we have a name. So now this is the reference variable. Now if you have a TV of Samsung type, you need a remote of Samsung. So similarly, if I have a dog object, I need an object of the dog reference variable of the dog type to hold the object itself. So in this case, the reference variable will be of the type dog. So the reference variable does not have the whole object in itself. It just knows the location of this object. So if here in this case, the object is, let's say, stored at memory location XX111, the reference variable only have the location address. So it only have XX111. Similarly, this is another reference variable. Now, what will be the type of the reference variable? Will be of type dog, because the object that it is going to control is a dog object. So what is if the memory of this object is at mm123 location, so this reference variable has the location address where this object is stored. So through this remote control, we will control what is everything of this object. So this object has a name and it also has an age. This also has its own name and has its own age. So because whatever the class has, the objects will have the same thing. And these are the reference variables. So how to create the reference variables? So we have created two objects, new of dog and new of dog. So we have written it 2 times, means 2 objects have been created. So let's say I wanted to control the reference variable name is, let's say, D1. And another reference variable is, let's say, dog is equals to D2. So now let's look one more time how the memory looks right now. So now the memory looks something like this. So in the memory, you have 2 dog objects. Now this is the dog object and this is another dog object. Now we have 2 remote controls. So this is the remote control that is of the type dog. It's called D1, and this is another remote control that is called D2. So I repeat, these 2 reference variables or these 2 remote control does not have the whole object in itself. They just have the memory location where these objects are stored in the memory. So if this object is stored at XX111 and this is stored in MM123 location, this reference variables only have the location of these objects. So this is the now we are having this right now. The name of the dog we have not set, the age of the dog we have not set. Here also the name and age of the dog has not been set. So now we're going to go ahead and set the names and age of the dog. So we'll go back here. D1 dot of name is, let's say, Scooby. So we use a dot operator. So we have each dog has a name. So D1 dot of name. So what is it is doing? Now D1 dot of name means this object. So name we are setting it to Scooby. So this is the name of this dog. Now the age is still not set, so we're going to go ahead and set the age of the dog. Let's say is 12. This is the age of the dog. So in the memory, this is going to be the age. Now this name and age we have to set. So this is pointing to by D2. So here we're going to say D2 dot of name is equals to tiger. And similarly, D2 dot of age is, let's say, 11. Now we're going to go ahead and call the bark method, because D1 bark method and the D2 bark method. This is called as the dot operator. This is the dot operator to call the variables or the methods on that particular object. So in this case, D1 dot of bark method. So what will it do? And D2 dot of bark method. So here what the bark method has. Now bark method is called on D1 object, right? So if you say D1 dot of bark, so bark method is called on the D1 object. Now what is in the D1 object? D1 object has a name of Scooby and age of 12. So in this case, the output of the program will be name is Scooby and age is 12. Name and age of the dog, bark. So it will go back to this dog. And what is in the bark method? Name and age of the dog. Name is Scooby, age is 12. Similarly, you're calling D2 dot of bark. Now what is the D2 object? D2 object name is tiger and the age is 11. So in this case, it will print bark of the D2. So D2 is name and age of the dog, tiger, and 11. So if you run the program, the output of the program is something like this. Let's see. So name of the dog is Scooby and age 12, name and age of the dog, tiger, and 11. So this is about an example to illustrate what are classes and what are objects. I hope you understood. Next class, we will do another example to make it more comfortable about what are classes and what are objects. So I'll see you in the next tutorial. Thank you.